So today I'm going to be building a set of swings for my kids. I've already got some swings from actually a play structure we had in our last house that we tore down as we were moving. So I'm just going to be building the frame for a set of swings. And so I'm going to start by cutting a bird's mouth into two poles, and I'll basically have the equivalent of like a ridge pole or like a beam kind of running across the middle that I will then the swings into. And then just throw a few supports on the legs of the swing, and it should be good to go. Just got to make sure these birds' mouths are anchored really well to it, and it should be a pretty good fit. We'll see. So here you see me drawing like a rough layout. Just going to use a 30-degree angle here. Then I will support it. I measured out the pieces that I had, and I was able to get 79 inches of length on each leg, so that's what I was going to get. And then I was going to put just 45-degree angle wind braces. I'm not 100% sure the terminology used when making swings, but that's what I would use for building, so I'll call them wind braces. Here I'm just clamping this down. I already made the first cut with my skill saw, and now I'm just going through and cutting it out by hand. As you can see, I'm going to be cutting a bird's mouth, which is like a notch, so that the bottom of the pole will have the 2x4 sitting on it, and the other one it'll just go up flush against the front of it that I can anchor it through. So I have support from the bottom and the sides. The nice thing about this is that once I have one of them cut the way I wanted to, with the bird's mouth on one end and the angle cut on the other, I can just trace that for all the other ones. So the rest of this should be pretty easy. Here I'm able to just trace this, and then I'll cut them through with the skill saw. And then finish them off with the handsaw, like you see here. I'm actually using a Japanese style handsaw, so the teeth, rather than they cut on the push, they actually cut on the pull, which is actually pretty comfortable. I like using them. And then I did a really precise job on the first one. The second one I'm able to just trace and put in and cut them out a little bit faster. Trying to be as precise as possible, so when I square it across, I can get a good line for where I'm going to be drilling through. The spade bit that I use, here I'm just pre-drilling it so I got an angle I can see the line better to make sure I've got a good start. Once I got this clamped together, I'm going to do this second line through one on the shorter of the two. I can eyeball down the line, and then I'll just finish off the holes that I started from one side, continuing the existing holes. Testing it out, I noticed I didn't quite line it up, so I'm going to have to end up reaming it out a little bit more to make sure that it fits. So now I'm to the point where I need to start drilling, get out my hole saws so I can be able to cut a big enough hole to fit a washer this size on top of the bolt. Before I was just drilling a big enough thing so I could slide the bolt through. The problem I found though is that in this opening for my drill, I need to be able to fit that for the proper size hole saw. But it's not actually large enough, I can't actually fit it in. So I found a way to work around that, and that is to do as follows. I take another socket driver, it's big enough to hold that, and I have an extremely long contraption, but it works for my hole saw. And I can put that in my impact driver, and I can still drill out these holes so I can set the washers down in there so I can suck this all real tight. So we'll see how this goes. See, I'm having to hold these two parts together, both the hole saw attachment and the socket attachment, so that way they don't come apart. Makes it a little awkward, but that's the reason why I put on gloves. And here I'm redoing it again on the second leg. And if I actually had an 1 3/8 spade bit, I would be able to do this without having to chisel it out and having to do it with a hole saw. But I didn't have a spade bit that big. Okay, so now I've got them drilled through at what I think is the correct angle, so I'm now going to do my test fitting. Again, this is just my test board anyways here that I'm doing, seeing if I've got them going through correctly there, and then after I've got that verified, I can actually hook this up to the actual ridge beam I'm going to use, and I can be sure that it'll work. So now that I've got these basically put together, you can see what it will look like once it's all done. We'll have these 2 bolts, 1/2-inch bolts that'll be going through a 2x6. I'm going to cut these short right here so it's flat with the top of that, but it gives it a little more meat to go through. I am going to need to get a couple of different size bolts for that top one so I don't have as much left over, or I could take a grinder to that and just cut it off. But it's very sturdy, and then I'll just have the actual ridge beam going to another set of these. So this is part 1. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit the like button, and I will be putting out the second part. I'm going to go through and I'll build the second legs, install the ridge beam, do the bracing for the legs, and put on the wind braces, or the support that'll be at 45 degrees. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will let my daughter do the sign off because she is much cuter than I am, and you saw her kind of walking through my garage a little bit while I was working. Thanks for watching.
Bye.